The flashing lights sliced through the dusk, painting the pine trees around our family cabin in streaks of red and blue. I was arranging my deployed son's guitar on its stand, the familiar scent of cedar and lake water wrapping around me like a memory. Then, the crunch of gravel under tires shattered the peace. 2 police cruisers pulled up, their sirens cutting through the quiet like a blade. Standing beside the lead car was Laura Mitchell, the HOA president, arms crossed, her face a mask of smug triumph. She pointed a manicured finger at me, then at the cabin, her lips moving with venom I could feel from 50 yards away. I stepped onto the porch, hands raised slightly, heart pounding. This was no misunderstanding, this was war. I'm David Harper, a logistics manager who's spent his life avoiding trouble. My wife, Emily, and I raised our son, Ethan, in a modest home, teaching him to stand tall but stay humble. Ethan's in the Army now, deployed overseas, and I was at our family's lakeside cabin, a sanctuary my grandfather built 60 years ago, storing his belongings to keep them safe. The cabin, far from the city and any HOA's grasp, was our refuge, a place of fishing trips and skipped stones. But Laura, the self-appointed queen of Willow Grove Estates, had other plans. The confrontation unfolded like a bad crime drama. A young officer, hand on his holster, eyed me warily, while the older one, Officer Bennett, approached with a measured stride. "Sir, we got a call about a break-in and theft," he said, nodding toward the cabin. I was stunned. "This is my family's cabin," I stammered, pointing to my truck, loaded with Ethan's boxes. "My son's deployed. I'm just moving his things here." Laura, clipboard in hand like a scepter, strutted forward, her voice dripping with false concern. "Officer, this man's a known troublemaker. This cabin's within our HOA's jurisdiction, and it's been vacant for years, a blight on our community." It was a lie, bold and brazen. My family had never joined any HOA, and the cabin was ours, free and clear. Anger burned in my chest, but I stayed calm, explaining that my ID and property records would prove my ownership. Laura's eyes gleamed as she handed Officer Bennett a laminated map, a red line encircling our cabin like a noose. She thought she'd won. But Bennett, world-weary and sharp, pulled out a tablet and compared her map to the county's official plat. The silence stretched, broken only by crickets and the hum of the police car. Laura stood smug, already crafting her victory email to the HOA. Then Bennett's expression shifted. "Ma'am," he said, his voice cold, "this cabin's not in your HOA. Your map's wrong. You filed a false report." Laura's face flushed red, her confidence crumbling. She sputtered, but Bennett turned to me, apologetic. "Mr. Harper, I'm sorry for the disturbance." The cruisers drove off, leaving Laura's SUV to speed away in a cloud of dust. I'd won the battle, but the war was just beginning. Laura didn't retreat. 2 days later, a letter appeared under my truck's wiper, embossed with the Willow Grove logo. It fined me $500 for unauthorized storage and $100 for trespassing on HOA land, a strip of weeds by the road. It was nonsense, a power grab to reassert her dominance. My neighbor, Carl, a retired electrician with a yard full of quirky sculptures, ambled over with a soda. "Heard about the sirens," he said, grinning. "You took on the dragon." I showed him the letter, and his face darkened. "She's done this before, David. To the Wilsons, an old couple on Maple Lane. She buried them in fines until they sold their home and left." That story lit a fire in me. This wasn't just about my cabin. It was a pattern of predation. Emily, usually calm, was furious when I told her. She targeted an elderly couple, and now us, while Ethan's serving his country. "We're not running." Her resolve steeled mine. I headed to the county records office, a dusty archive of faded maps and deeds. Hours of digging confirmed our cabin was outside the HOA's bounds, just as Bennett said. Then I found the Wilsons' file. Their property, like ours, was never part of Willow Grove, but a decade-old document of fraudulent annexation signed by the HOA board and notarized by Laura's husband. Greg had redrawn the boundaries to swallow their land. Laura, then the board's secretary, had orchestrated it all. This was no petty grudge, it was a calculated crime. The deeper I dug, the uglier it got. A blue ledger from the HOA's early days, written in Laura's meticulous cursive, revealed a community enforcement fund, a slush fund fed by exorbitant fines. Payments went to private investigators and a law firm that sent threatening letters. Worse, regular vendor partnership fees came from Greenleaf Landscaping and Peak Roofing, companies Laura recommended to fix violations she'd invented. It was a kickback scheme. She'd find homeowners for minor issues, steer them to her approved vendors, and pocket a cut. The Wilsons' large lot, with its old roof and trees, was a goldmine for her scam. My $500 fine was just the start. Soon, I'd get a notice about my cabin's unacceptable shingles. The evidence was a ticking bomb, but I needed more than documents. I needed the community. Carl and I planned a lakeside barbecue, billing it as a friendly get-together. We spread flyers, avoiding any mention of the HOA to draw a crowd. The day was perfect, with burgers sizzling and laughter filling the air. Then Laura's SUV rolled up. She stormed in, clipboard raised, her voice slicing through the chatter. "This is an unauthorized gathering. Mr. Harper, you're violating HOA covenants." I met her gaze. "Laura, this is my property. You're trespassing." The crowd gasped. No one defied her like that. Then, a frail voice broke the tension. "She fined me $200 for a bird bath," said Mrs. Ellis, an elderly widow. A burly man added, "She made me replace a 6-foot fence with a 5-foot one, cost me $3,000. The dam broke." Residents shared stories of absurd fines for toys on lawns, wrong paint colors, vegetable gardens. Laura's control relied on isolating her victims, but now they saw they weren't alone. Her shouts of bylaws fell flat as the crowd's anger grew. I seized the moment. "She tried to have me arrested on my own land," I said. "And she did worse to the Wilsons, bullying them until they sold their home." Murmurs rippled through the older residents. "Lies," Laura shrieked, but I had an ace. "Meet Mr. Wilson," I said, as Carl brought forward the elderly man we'd tracked down. His voice trembled but carried weight. "She made our lives hell. We lost our home." The crowd fell silent, Laura's cruelty laid bare. She fled, jeers chasing her. That night, Greg showed up at the cabin, his fake smile fading fast. "Laura gets carried away, but she means well," he said. I cut him off. "Is that what you call fraud, Greg? I know you notarized the Wilsons' annexation. I know about the kickbacks." His face paled. He lunged for the ledger I'd hidden, but I sidestepped, and he crashed into Ethan's trophy shelf, gold plastic raining down. Carl burst in, wielding a ceramic gnome like a weapon. "Trouble, David?" Greg scrambled out, leaving chaos behind. The next morning, state investigators called. They served a warrant at Laura and Greg's home, and I watched from across the street as boxes of evidence were hauled out. Neighbors gathered, whispering, their fear replaced by relief. Laura emerged, her face twisted with rage, her glare powerless. Greg followed, defeated. The investigation unraveled a decade of corruption, fraud, extortion, kickbacks. The HOA was dissolved, its accounts seized. Victims, including Mr. Wilson, were compensated, their properties restored. Months later, Emily and I sat on the cabin porch, the lake shimmering under autumn leaves. A letter from Ethan warmed my hand. "Dad, you're my hero," he wrote. I'd fought for his memories, for our peace, and for a community bullied too long. Laura's reign was over, but the fight had taught me how far a man will go to protect his own, all the way, with dusty records, a barbecue, and even a gun-wielding neighbor. Justice wasn't just ours, it was everyone's.